And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.
This whole thing started over some little ditty in Jack and Diane. That's the only time you ever put that Glock in your hand and thought about suicide.
Operators will wait 13 years to ask for help.
And it says, hey, look, I love the motivation, man, but your tactics.
Yeah. And it's your muscle memory. You know the deal, Lou. You absolutely know it. And
Yeah.
my past chases, man. God, my past chases me.
All right, I want to welcome our guests today, Mr. Tom and Jen Satterly. This is Lou Pimber. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start, though, I do want to read something from your book. Is that all right, Tom?
Absolutely.
Is that all right? Very good. So this is something that was pretty profound for me, okay? And I'm sure for everyone else who read this book. And by the way, I read it twice, okay? And so it says here, you lie on your bunk and stare at the ceiling or the bottom of the bunk above you, reliving all the terrible things you've seen, heard, and done. That teenager gasping in his bed, bloody foam on his lips, his eyes filled with panic, or looking into the dying eyes of a man you killed years ago. It's living your life on a fast, violent roller coaster that won't stop to let you off, unless you catch a bullet. A terrorist blows you away, or you jump and end it yourself. That's some pretty profound stuff, man. There's so much behind that, you know. Now I just want to welcome you guys. Today we have Tom Satterly and Jen Satterly. But the rumor is, Tom, that this whole thing started over some little ditty in Jack and Diane. It was just two American boys talking about joining the army or something like that. Is that where it all started?
That sounds like a country song right there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Too,
well,
welcome, you guys.
Straight out, right?
Totally.
Welcome.
John Cougar was involved. So
It was in some way, shape, or form.
yeah.
So Tom, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then of course I want Jen to kind of introduce herself as well. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I grew up in Indiana with no plans to go anywhere, probably. You know, I just day by day. And I mean, my military career, I ended up, joining the military after trying out some college, on my parents' dime. And a friend of mine joined the military, one of my best friends. No idea anything about it. He came back from basic training and was selling me a bill of goods on the way to the John Cougar concert. His hair's short. Mine was kind of long at the time. And he's just selling that bill of goods on the military, and the haircut's not that bad. I'm going to Europe. And I thought, Germany, huh? And by the time we got up there, I decided to join the military to get some college money, go see Europe. And I figured it was my way out of Indiana. 4 years, get college money in and out, real quick thing. And then somewhere along the way, I blinked.
Yeah.
just like that.
It's gone.
Did a few things in between.
Yeah. I bet.
Couple.
So Jen, by the way, also an accomplished author. We have the book All Secure right here, written by Tom Satterly, of course, proofread and approved by Jen, I'm sure, a few times. And then we have the book Arsenal of Hope, written by Jen Satterly. You can tell this, if you open up my book, it's full of notes because I read these things. And talk about being honest and talk about being open and just kind of laying it out. I appreciate that. And by the way, true to the quiet professionals, you kept it real, man, but kept out the good parts that should remain unnamed. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So Jen?
Yeah, well, I met Tom and started working with Tom right away. So right out the gate, I started working in special operations as a contractor for about almost 4 years. and I was doing camera work. So I was essentially combat camera on realistic military training exercises.
Nice.
During that time, I got to know the guys real well and really developed a passion for helping them on the home front instead of helping them go overseas. So started a nonprofit called All Secure and then wrote a book.
Right
Yeah,
on.
she makes it sound simple. Like I
Yeah.
was doing nothing and decided to go do this. I mean, she was doing film and photography for, you know, companies like Jack Daniels, TWA, and
Nice.
large Nike and things like that, and decided to, after turning it down 3 times, was voluntold to go do this. And
Yeah.
and
By
that's
a
when
ranger.
that's when we met, and that's when she decided that
I loved it.
she loved it. I mean, wow.
Got it. You know, and you do leave out a lot of parts here. Like it was Jack and Diane, and all of a sudden now you're retired. But there's so much that happened in between. Yeah, a lot of that happened in between. And I have to tell you, man, I want to thank you for your service to our country and our community. And I have a lot of respect for just how I've seen all the interviews with you as well, just how not casual, but just very nonchalant. You just share what you've done because you're in fact a professional, and guys like you and the unit like you are professionals that way. And so I want to thank you for that. Now, you initially were an engineer, right? Is that how your Army career started?
Yeah, combat engineer. That's what got me into Germany, you know, building bridges, blowing bridges up and learning how to build things. I was like, well, what a better way to come back and start a new career, you know, when I get out in 4 years.
And that was in Fort Leonard Wood as well, right? Or is that somewhere
It
else?
was.
Yeah.
Fort Lost in the Woods, I hear they call it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
He says it every time.
Yeah, when my son graduated MP school, because that's what they have it now, I drove by the combat engineer location, and so it's been there for a long time. So much history there.
That's where I grew up really fast.
So
Very fast.
how did you pick the MOS? How did you end up as a combat engineer?
Yeah, like most military people, I think. Well, not most. Some go in with a plan. I went in there and I thought, I'm going to be a medic. I'm going to be a doctor, right? My mom was in the medical profession. I'm going to be a doctor or whatever. He's like,
Yeah.
You like to blow stuff up? I go, that sounds cool because you like to
Mhm.
build stuff. I was building houses at the time, and I go, oh yeah, of course, yeah. Combat engineer, my friend, is where you want to go. And pictures of blowing stuff up and excitement. I went, yes, I do. So,
Awesome.
good old Army recruitment.
Yes. And so you're there, and then you ended up as a paratrooper somewhere.
Yeah, that was my way to get back to Fort Bragg. I was promoted E5 before I got primary leadership development course, so I could not re-enlist for Special Forces.
Got it.
So to get to Fort Bragg, I thought jump school, I'll get near Special Forces, and then I'll try to re-enlist that way, or I'd already enlisted, but try to join that way. So yeah, that was kind of the path I was picking along the way, even though I had no idea where I was going.
The interesting thing is you chose, or the dream of becoming a Green Beret was sold to you based on a lie. Is that true?
Stolen valor.
Stolen valor of one of
Straight
my
up.
best friends. Grew up chasing the dream, and then he ended up becoming a ranger and a sapper leader out of Fort Leonard Wood as well. And then got out after he became an officer, and then was in charge of a dive locker in Hawaii and things like that. So he had a great career, but didn't go SF. But that was his dream. His dad was holding him as a baby, wearing his dad's Green Beret.
Right.
It was green. It wasn't his dad's. And we just found that out like last year, I think, or a couple years ago. And I was like, whoa, I took off on that dream, and he never really chased it. It was weird to find that out.
But there's so much
Just
behind
what
it.
you needed to go.
Yeah, but there's so much behind that. Even though it was someone else's dream based on some stolen, I guess, valor, someone else's fictionalized wannabe life, you bought that, man. And there's so many dreams that are being sold today. In our country today, a lot of Americans are being sold this dream of, oh my gosh, you're not going to make it. Woe is you. You're been deprived. All these things are happening. And these dreams of dread are being sold to our youth today, and they're buying it, man. And so it's up to us, leaders like us. And I earn the title of leader every day, just so you know. I earn the title of business owner every single day, man. And we have to make sure we sell the dream to people, and you bought that dream and the full line and sinker, and you ran with it.
And I would tell people along the way, well, not along the way, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing it. I just kept doing it and failing and doing it and living in fear. but just, chasing your dreams is your parents told you could be anything you wanted to be when you grow up, right?
Yes.
And I tell people they didn't finish the sentence.
Yes.
If you work your butt off, right?
Yes.
You have to put the work into it. People, I think I grew up with people thinking you can do anything you want, and now kids are growing up thinking you can get anything you want.
Right.
It's like, but where's the effort? They don't see the effort that people put in for that 10-year overnight success.
Yes. Hey, by the time you can rappel and fast rope out of a helicopter and look like a cool guy, so much has happened before that.
Right.
So many things have happened. Injuries, PT, all sorts of things have happened before you get to do the cool guy stuff. And so today, you're absolutely right. Today, a lot of our youth, a lot of our people out there are just want the end result, but they don't want to put in the work, man. And so that's what they have to understand is you want to do the cool guy stuff. You got to put in the work. You can become anything you want if you put in the work.
Right.
That's simple. So from there, you went into SF selection, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that was I was on Fort Bragg. I found the SF recruiters, and we just visited that a month or two ago. I was like, this is where it all started, and it's surrounded by other new buildings now. And I can't even remember where it is. And a colonel took us over, and he's like, there it is. I'm like, man, this is where my whole life started.
Wow.
Went to SFAS on Fort Bragg and went to the Q course, and it was easy because I was becoming a special operations engineer sergeant now. So
okay, yeah,
I already know what to do to be an engineer. So here's a Green Beret. All right, cool. So that's kind of what it was for me, minus the physical part.
Yeah.
And I was in language school, and a couple of guys that I worked with during the qualification course came up and grabbed me on a break and said, hey, you need to go over here, call this number kind of thing. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds better than this, right? So I ended up talking to the recruiter for the unit. And once I did the PT test and the psych eval, he's like, sure, we'll get you a date. I mean, every 10-minute break, every 50 minutes, you get that 10-minute break in the military. I was doing flutter kicks, sit-ups, for my 10 minutes. People are like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, I'm nothing, man. Just what I do. You don't tell people what you're doing just in case you fail. You don't have to tell anybody else about it.
So let me take you back a little bit. When you were when you finally completed SFAS and became a Green Beret, how long were you on ODA? How long were you on a team before you ended up moving over to the unit?
Never on a team.
Okay.
When I went to fifth group, they were deployed in the first Gulf War already.
Okay.
And I had a selection date, which makes you non-deployable. So this is the second time I missed combat, and I was freaking out. Like, I'm in the military. I got to go to combat, man.
Yeah.
Until you get to combat, obviously. But I wanted to go. So here it is. You can't deploy. You have a selection date. So I'm the sergeant major of like 2nd Battalion, 5th Special Forces Group as an E5.
Okay. So you're in charge.
I'm in charge of myself and a medic who's injured. So, I mean, that's all I did was work out.
Yeah. Right on. So now let me ask you this: in terms of you had to develop habits of success, right? To complete SFAS, to complete that, what habits did you pick up in engineer school? And what habits did you end up developing while in the time you were a Green Beret?
Wow. The habits that I picked up for success that kept me going was to accept the suck, right? Whatever sucks, it'll go away. And just to never quit.
That's right.
You got to be physically fit. That goes with it. That's the implied tasks. The specified tasks for me were don't ever quit. If you're in shape and you can make those times and you don't ever quit, you'll make this. You'll make almost anything because all the other stuff they could teach you. Right. So, but if you quit, you never get there, and it gets tough along the way, and you're starving and you're hungry and you're tired, and you've been there, the deal, and you want to quit. And I wanted to quit 100 times a day. It's what you do with that. Do you quit? Do you stop for a second? And I didn't. I just didn't stop.
Before that habit developed of knowing not to quit, how many times did you reach that point, and how did you discipline yourself to say, I'm not going to quit?
I would go a little further.
Okay.
Well, I'll quit when I get to that tree. I'll quit when I'm going to quit. I'm quitting now, but it's not a good place to quit. I got to walk out anyway. So I'll just walk to the next road. And if there's a truck there, I'll quit. Every selection along the way taught me something. Every job, adversity, right? So it's just to generalize it for everybody on the world, it's adversity. That's when you grow and learn the most. And I had a lot of adversity, and some of it I created myself. So,
Yeah.
you know, I had a lot of learning opportunities growing up. And I think when people look at, I had it so tough, I look at it now like, you learned a lot then, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because if someone grew up nice and happy and wealthy and no problems and they don't learn much really unless they get to work and study. And it's kind of hard to when everything's so nice and sweet.
So from there, you went to the unit selection because some guys in language school said, call this guy, and you picked up the phone and called.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, man, people are afraid to make that phone call. I mean, before I got to work on the show Breaking Bad, I almost didn't even show up because terrified. I was like, so-and-so was told no. I'm like, what are they gonna say yes to me for? But a lot of times the difficult part is just showing up. And so a lot of guys, they wouldn't even make the phone call because there's a fear factor and of the unknown. And so you basically said, I'm just going to do it. And you just called, and it was kind of like spooky, or how was that? You like this?
I learned that no, I learned growing up that no is an answer too. We weren't wealthy. My parents worked very hard. So I learned that from them. You know, I learned good work ethic. I learned that if I mowed grass, and I learned how to use a lawnmower as young as I could, that's my ability to make money, because my parents couldn't give me anything. So I learned a good work ethic. And I just, you know, the greatest failure is the failure to try. I say that over and over again, right? Make that phone call, 10,000 pound phone, you pick it up, like, and it's over. It's easy, you know, ish after that, right? And you just keep doing it over and over and over again. And if you can't, it's like, how do you eat an elephant, right?
One bite at a time,
man. That's all you can do. And people get overwhelmed with it's too much. It's scary. I almost threw up every time I went to selection. I would lay in the bathtub the night before, sick. I'm not going. I'm throwing up. I'm so sick. Every single selection I went to, I was terrified. And you know, and I tell the guys that, you know, combat, I wasn't afraid. I'm like, you're a liar. Everyone is terrified of getting killed, right? Some horrible way.
Sure, for sure.
Everyone. It's what you do with that next defines who you are.
And when you were in the unit, every day was selection. Every day you're being assessed.
I feel like I'm still being assessed right now, man. Assessment is ongoing. You heard it every day. Assessment is ongoing. Selection's an ongoing process. And every day they're reminding you that you might not be here tomorrow. You might not be here tomorrow because we're assessing you today as well.
So you've got to earn it every single day. Every
single day you have to earn the right to be there.
Got it. The in your book, you talk a little bit about the lack of family life. Obviously, you've had a few wives, right? You've been married a few times.
Times 2.
3, 4. You're 4? Okay.
She's the last one.
The last one. That's it, man. That's it. You've mastered it. You've got it right.
I didn't even do the quotations that time.
But in the book, you talk about family life, right? You talk about how the challenge with it, right? It's like your challenge between being razor sharp in your job, in your duties, and being a husband and a father. So there's a sacrifice.
Yeah, it was a sacrifice, and it was also a bill of goods. I sold myself because I talk to these young warriors now like a father. I don't wag my finger, but I'm telling them like this: listen, you tell me you don't have time when you're overseas to write home. I go, then you need to practice being a better commando then, because commandos can write home and commando stuff, you know? And I didn't do it either. I would call home on the sat phone, but I'd tell myself, I don't want to get out of the game. I don't want to get out of the game. And I tell guys now, you're going to lose your wife. You will lose your wife. I think I heard a statistic today. Is it?
I don't know. I heard one today and I'm like, I need to double check.
Like special operations divorce 90%. Rates, 90% now. It is ridiculous, because who wants to live that life? The wives, the spouses, stick around for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk to them now, they're all sick of it. And then their spouse comes home from overseas, and they're, oh, by the way, grumpy all the time and suffering post-traumatic stress, and the Grinch who stole Christmas, and by the way, the aggression because of how you deal with people at work comes home with you.
Yeah,
and it's your muscle memory. You know the deal, Lou. You absolutely know it. And you come home and you're like, that's normal talk to honey, and kids, damn it, clean the dishes. And they don't want to be talked to like that. So I tell them now, you can do both. You can be a stronger warrior by being mentally focused at work, and then turn it off and relax and come home and be mentally focused at home.
And so the challenge is being mentally focused at home while still maintaining that mental sharpness on the job.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is no one ever tells them that. No one tells them, hey, you have to be mentally sharp at home as well. Is that what you're finding nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say it loud enough that relationships are a job. When you wake up, you're going to work with your spouse, and you should be working at it just like you work at work. We all want to do well at work. My work, I got to stay up late. I got to do this and that. Nobody stays up late reading a book about how to be in a better relationship, right? Well, some people do, and they have good relationships.
Yeah.
The ones that don't are like, I'm too busy at work to do this and that. And they don't see their life falling down around them. And when they finally wake up 10, 20 years later, depending on how long they make it in their job, if they live through it, and they come home and there's nothing there, but a lawn chair in your living room. You're like, what happened? What happened? I wonder why my wife cheated. Well, I never was home. I never flirted with her, never told her how much I loved her, because I was always being a commando at work, and I didn't want to lose my razor's edge, so you lost everything else, like professional athletes, like business leaders who perform at work all the time. Something gives up. You give up something unless you focus on that too.
There's an element of personal development, I think, that is lacking. I think even in military leadership, even in law enforcement leadership, there's a lack of personal development because we're so busy doing that we forget that we have to personally develop as well. Jen, in your work, and you've been helping spouses and soldiers and with this post-traumatic stress. By the way, I call it post-traumatic success, man. Let me tell you something. I took a beating. I've had all sorts of ugly stuff happen in my law enforcement career that I had to bounce back as well. And my saving grace, Jen, was personal development to help me, to save me, and to create that post-traumatic stress in my life, to create the post-traumatic success. I think, and maybe you're doing this already. What is your approach when you meet with a family, husband and wife, when they finally admit there's a problem? How do you approach that?
Well, I think that people know there's a problem, that there's something going on. And, the dialogue that's created in the culture, whether it's law enforcement or military, is that it's weak to ask for help, that, I'm a soldier, I'm a law enforcement, I should be able to figure this out.
Right.
So why would I ask for help when I have all the tools, I've been taught all these things, and I come home and I feel like a failure because I don't have the playbook. I don't know what to do. And my training is very different than what typically fits in a household mold. So we'll tell him, hey, I'm not your private. Don't talk to me that way. I get it. You might have to talk that, or a terrorist. I'm not a terrorist either. So don't really approach me that way.
Yes.
And so, first thing when a family comes in, they know there's issues, they know there's problems. And usually, unfortunately, the statistics in special operations community, at least, is that operators will wait 13 years to ask for help. And so they are way into rock bottom, in bedrock by the time they're reaching out. And so usually we get people at crisis mode, like I'm ready to get divorced, or I'm suicidal, or something pretty big is happening in their life. We always encourage people, don't wait till you're in the bedrock to hit us up. Little problems can spiral. But the first thing is awareness. Like you said, you did professional development. Our house looks like the Barnes and Noble section of the self-help area.
Yeah, I have all
because
these
I
books
buy
and at home. Yeah.
It's like reading glasses.
But
they're
it's
everywhere.
so powerful to educate yourself, and to really, because one book is going to speak to you differently than me. And in fact, I'll read books multiple times too, because I'm a different person reading that book today than I was 10 years ago when I picked it up, or even 5 years ago. So Jen, educate and inform, for sure.
Educate and inform. So how do you deal with this, Jen? You have a top-notch operator, top-notch soldier, and he says to you, but Jen, you don't understand. I have to focus on my career to support my family. What are you talking about? How do you deal with that? Because that's a tough one. You're right. You do have to focus on your career. You do have to show up. You do have to put in 40, 50, 60 hours a week to show up. And then oftentimes that's how you support your family. So how do you deal with that?
Well, I say, bring your spouse into the picture, because what happens is what we see a ton in both law enforcement and in military culture is, I'm going to leave that at home. I'm going to leave that at work. I don't want to bring it home. I don't want to bring the war home. I don't want to bring what I saw on the streets home. I don't want to share that. So what happens is we see a ton of resentment, because the spouse knows that you're going to spend 50, 60 hours of work. And on average, a special operator is gone 250 days a year. So this isn't news to the spouse that you're going to be committed, you're going to be gone, and you're going to be dedicated and focused in that job. What we always say is bring the spouse in. And sometimes you don't need to go into gory detail. It's not like, hey, I saw this thing and it's really bad, but just to bring in the feelings, the emotions of what you saw and what you did, because then you're a team and you're truly treating your spouse like a team member, which they should be.
Got it. And so what initial steps do you give them? What's like what would be the initial piece of advice you give this guy to admit that there's an issue? How do you get him to admit that? How do you get him to confess?
That's a little tougher.
It is. It is
a little tougher. Might take a few. He's
trickery.
Yes.
Really good. Like I'll be with a spouse. I'm like, let's get your husband on a call with Tom, because he's really great at just speaking the truth and real, which is just, are you happy with the way your life is going right now? Like really, when you evaluate your life, you're already telling me you don't like the way you treat your kids or your wife, or you're already telling me you have an issue with this, this, or that. So let's fix it. You know, it's, you're not broken. The situation is. I hate when people say I'm broken. You're not broken. The situation's broken. You can unbreak it. You can fix it. You can correct it.
Or you can just tell them like you can tell them like they told Tom on his first op, and it says, hey, look, I love the motivation, man, but your tactics.
Yes. You laugh about that one.
You know,
I'll never forget that one.
Yeah. So let's talk about the phone call to Mogadishu. And that's kind of where you cut your teeth, right? That's where you made it. That's where you kind of broke ground, so to speak. And you repelled like a cool guy, and you got caught up in a bunch of wires, and you fumbled your way to the door.
Terrified.
Yeah.
Wrapped in wires with a shotgun, 1100 shotgun, like a musket. You know, I don't know what I was thinking. And I am terrified, and I don't even know what to do. I mean, I wonder where my team is. They're fighting the wire behind me, trying to get down. It's our first hit ever. And I'm that go guy, man. I'm number one, you know. I found out at the end of the hit, my team there was running around behind me trying to grab my collar. I was doing it all wrong, all wrong. Just going fast, you know.
Look, I remember the first time they had me bust through a door with a ram, and it took me a couple tries. Because of the adrenaline, I was hitting the wrong spot. And finally, this big old supervisor says, let me help you with this kid. Hit it right there. The bad guys in the house had already flushed all the cocaine. They already made phone calls to the lawyers by the time we got in the house. You know what I mean? But you know, I get it, man. I get it. And look, before you deployed, before you went in there, you're in a situation we had to write a letter back home in response to your parents, right?
Yeah.
And here's what's interesting about that letter is that they're sharing with you their issues at home. When you compare those issues with your issues, you're like, come on, man. Dad, just play the damn guitar. Like, just go do it. But you know, it's one of those things where sometimes we, as looking back, we have to understand that you lived a high-speed life, and sometimes their problem is almost insignificant compared to yours, sort of. But you still have to give it some relevance to kind of where you're at right now, and you did that. Even though you were in the suck, you still encouraged them, and so I like that, man.
I had to learn it myself as I'm preaching to my parents, my wisdom from my first combat deployment. Yeah. You know, where I think I'm going to die. And it was, I didn't do what I told them to do. Right. I didn't do my own advice. You know, I didn't pay attention to my son. I didn't listen to my son's small problems. Right. My problems were the big ones then, you know? And so it was, you know, and I try to help people with their relationships with their families and their kids now. We both do, but it's like, look, my 22-year-old son barely talks to me, you know, and it's my fault. I created it. I don't call it fault. I created it based on my decisions. And all I can do is be here for him and continually wait and have a relationship as an adult. But I tell guys now, look at those little kids. I see your pictures. You know, do you get on the floor? Well, I don't know how to connect. Well, then lay there and let them crawl over you. Be the mountain. Let them crawl over them. You're present.
Yes.
Don't do what I didn't think. I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know what to say. Who does? What parent knows what to say to a 1-year-old? Hey, do something. You know, you don't know what you're doing, but you try. And I didn't try. I used excuses as work, and
it's hard
to help people keep their relationships.
Yes, it is hard to be childlike when you're in an environment like that. And guys have to do that. You have to learn to be childlike, meaning open up your mind to what your kids are saying, relate to the little 12-year-old preteen issue that she might have, you know. And sometimes you have to be childlike, not childish, but childlike. Open your mind, listen, and just kind of get on the ground and just play cards with them, man.
Yeah.
You know,
my problem was trying to save them. I'm going to save you by telling you about the horrors of the world you need to avoid right now. So instead of letting them just be children, right? Just be children. Got it. You know, so trying to help people not do what I did is a big part of our day. Got it.
So when you look back now, how many kids do you have now? Is it the one son?
I have
combined
one,
with
and
3.
Yeah, combined 3.
3. Okay. So what's the relationship now with the kids? With your oldest, your son? Is it
my oldest? He texted me Happy Father's Day with a heart. You know,
okay. We're getting somewhere.
I texted him Happy Thanksgiving, and a week later he said Thanks, Dad. You know, so yeah, it's there. Okay. With my stepkids, it's been improving since we got together. I mean, step parenting and being who I am.
And it's so fun.
Her being who she is and knowing who I am is one of those, you'll stay away from the children for a bit, right? You will monitor from a distance, and it's a good call. And it's been one of those learning experiences for me of how to step parent younger kids again, especially a younger female. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with younger females.
Yeah.
But, you know, she wrote a card the other day and it said, sorry, I'm so hard to handle, you know, kind of in the middle of the card, but thank you for this. And I looked at her later and I said, you're not hard to handle. I just don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
You know, I figured honesty will work right now because people understand honesty, and it's if it's simple enough.
Look, at a certain point, obviously, I mean, you saw so many things, right? And Mogadishu, Super 6-1, the helicopter going, the Black Hawk, 3 of them, I think, went down. You know, your colleagues being killed and stuff like that. And today, the war you're fighting is the whole war on post-traumatic stress. But you got a battle buddy right there, Jen. You guys find this together, you know, and I think that's pretty damn cool, man. You know, at which point, Tom, did you recognize the symptoms? At which point did you know, okay, there's an issue? Well, we all have a dark side, okay, but the dark side can be good though, you know. Yeah. When you're doing cool guy stuff, you have to go to the dark side. When you're completing a selection, you've got to go to the dark side so you can survive. Yep. But sometimes that dark side wins, man, and you stay there for too damn long. And so at which point did you realize I have to tame this dark side? At which point, what happened?
Wedding night.
Yes.
You know,
honeymoon.
I had a lot of clues along the way I ignored. There was a lot of, hey, look over here, Tom, look over here. And I was like, what? What? And, you know, wedding night, because up to that point, it was, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Wedding night was, it's not okay, you know? And spent the weekend thinking, man, I've blown number 4 before it even got out of the gate. I mean, she's talking about not even turning in the paperwork from the preacher Monday in Savannah, Georgia, to make it legal. So it just never happened other than paying for it, which to me was like, even more waste, you know, at the time.
So you.
Right. So me. And I said, I got to do something. I've got to do something or I'm going to end up dead. I'm going to end up alone and miserable and drunk somewhere. And I see that Vietnam veteran under the bridge or that veteran under the bridge. And I don't want to portray that. I don't want to be that. I don't want anyone to be that.
But Tom, I think it happened. I mean, it happened before that, because even in your book, you talk about, says you were certainly experiencing all those symptoms, you know, and more. Nightmares of being trapped, both in a combat sense, but also in everyday life, and that jolted you in your sleep. So these things were happening beforehand. And
yeah, it happened
After Somalia.
right after Somalia. I got home
93.
off the bus. Wife picked me up at work, drove me home. I didn't say a word. We got in the house, and just like our shrink told us overseas, which I thought he was crazy, she said, "So how was it?" I started bawling.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear the dogs?
Yeah. No, I love dogs.
All right. So I started bawling, and then it went away. And from that moment on, I thought, let's tuck this one away. Let's not speak of this again.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to my friend about it when I told him I did exactly what the shrink said, man. He's, oh, yeah, me too. But other than that, it was, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can so that never happens again. And then I know I display the signs and symptoms by infidelity, drinking all the time, bad decisions, reckless behavior. To me, I was being a commando. To me, I'm with boys, doing what boys do. And now her and I tell people, now here are the signs and symptoms, and listen up, guys. It's eerily close to who you are on a daily basis.
Right.
And by the way, who you are on a daily basis is not normal. You're the monster that we need when we need you out of the box, but you're running around outside your box everywhere now. And this is not
the dark
good
side
for society.
The dark side.
Yeah. You brought the dark side in here, and you're not supposed to do that.
I mean, you talk about, it says, despite the issues that plagued me, I still didn't seek help. That's a lot of people, man. You know, look, I remember I got hurt pretty bad. That's how I got out of law enforcement. Okay. And I had a shrink tell me, she says, "You're going to miss it." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm good." She goes, "You're going to miss it." I said, "I'm fine." And I started doing things, hanging out places that I shouldn't have been. It was places that I was hanging out when I was an undercover narc.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I doing here? You know, but I didn't seek help either. And so, like, what do you tell a guy who's going through that, who's he knows he's got issues that are plaguing him or her? How do they seek help? How can they get a hold of you, man? And Jen, how do they get a hold of you, Jen?
It's too easy, honestly. allsecurefoundation.org has a contact button.
Okay.
It goes directly to me. So I filter everything through. He's Tom at allsecurefoundation.org. I'm Jen at allsecurefoundation.org.
Okay.
So you can reach us real easy, and we're here to help. We have a whole system of programs, support, counselors, therapists, coaches, programs out the wazoo. So once you get to us, we've got you. But don't wait. Even if you're listening to it now and you're like, oh my God, this is so me, because everyone listens to his podcast and say, this is so me.
Yeah.
And then they keep waiting, and they'll wait on, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it after this move, or I'll do it after this deployment, or I'll do it when I get out of law enforcement.
Well, here's the good one.
Today.
Yeah.
Here's the good one. My combat wasn't like yours. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a cop, and I go, okay, you live in your combat zone every day, huh?
Yeah.
With
Your family's in there,
Right.
and the enemy is me, right?
Right.
The enemy is all of us, because that's who we hate. We hate our enemy. To do our job, we have to hate the enemy. So don't tell me as a cop that, oh, my combat's not like yours, or I never went to combat. No, you didn't go to
Every
combat.
day.
You were born in it.
Yeah.
You live in it, in the soup. So really, law enforcement are the toughest for me, because they don't feel they need it. They don't feel they deserve it. They don't feel,
the last to ask.
They're the last to ask
Yeah.
for help, because they help other people.
So much, yeah.
And it slowly creeps out, though, because my first wife, right? She told me that one time. She says, "I feel like we're out right now with a Secret Service agent or a bodyguard. Can you just relax?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm having a good time." It just, look, I lived in this community that where I conducted undercover operations with people from other parts of town and in the country that I've run into them at times, and so she doesn't understand what was going on, right? but it's us that we have to understand what's going on. We have to understand that they're not in our world, and so how does one break from that mold? How does one break for that? Because look, on one part, Jen, You tell me that, I'm gonna say, Jen, complacency will get me killed. What are you talking about? Right? Stay alert, stay alive type of stuff. What are you talking about? So how does one understand that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that, because fight, flight, or freeze is necessary for your job. You needed it. Tom needed it. In fact, there's a shot called the SGB. It disrupts the response. So fight, flight, or freeze. It turns it off. And guys are like, yeah, but when I go overseas, will I still be an okay warfighter? Am I going to be able to come home or bring my, yes, you're biologically, that will flip on, because it's going to help keep you alive. You want it to. Just like with your job, you wanted it to, but biologically, our bodies can't shut it off and on. We don't have that kind of skill set to go, I'm at work from 9 to 4, and then at 5, I'm gonna all of a sudden not be hypervigilant, or all of a sudden I'm not gonna have these OCD tendencies, or all of a sudden I'm not gonna have anger outbursts, and I can all of a sudden just control it at 5 o'clock in the evening. It doesn't work that way. So I think the best thing you could do is arm yourself with the education of how your biology works, and then systematically ways to decompress. So ways that your body will respond to, okay, it's time to shut down now. And what biologically can you do to send off? And we've got a whole free download on our website of ways to do that.
And that's allsecure.
It's allsecurefoundation.org, and it's a 6-week mind and body reset. It's a free download on PDF. How to sleep better, eat better, decompress with simple meditations. Biologically, you've got to reset yourself. It's not a matter of willpower.
You know, what's interesting is that I remember having to, I mean, I obviously I got some help. I mean, I got hurt pretty bad, violent situation, brain injury, problems with dislocated my jaw, my arm, inner ear problem, all sorts of stuff, right? So when you're dealing with a traumatic brain injury, which I'm sure you deal with guys like that all the time, and then you're dealing with post-traumatic stress, which is a bunch of stuff, and it's very challenging. I mean, it's a lot of times. I remember hearing my counselor tell me these things, and I'm like, "You make it sound so damn easy." But the one piece of advice that I got, Jen, was this: intellectualize the problem. I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Right? She goes, just refer to it as an unfortunate event that happened in your life. And so I started doing that. I started referring to it as just an unfortunate event that happened in my life. So I intellectualized it. So therefore, I wasn't being emotional about it anymore. And so that helped, you know, and that helped. And so it helped to tame the dark side, you know. And so let me ask you a question, Tom. This is from your book, all right? It says, the world was a dark and dangerous place. The enemy was always less than human and was the cause, and therefore got the blame and the brunt of all of mine and my friends' issues. That's the freaking dark side, bro.
Yeah, it is.
You have to go there to deal with the enemy. You have to go in that moment, but then it becomes an issue later on, right? And to the point that eventually you even became suicidal at that point.
Yeah, it becomes who you are. It becomes who makes your decisions. And just like you talked about, what helped me a lot with that was emotional focus therapy, removing it, making it external, and talking to who it was. You know, we talk about how many people have multiple personalities, and nobody raises their hand. I'm like, you all do. You all act different on Friday night at the bar than you do Sunday at church, man. You all act different around grandma, you know, than you do your best friend, you know. So we all put on a different mask. And I lost that point, didn't I? I love it when that happens. Were we talking about TBI?
Suicide. The other dark side about.
Yeah. Tom, would you go back? Trick question.
Would I go back? No, not anymore. You know, and there'll be people that are mad at me for that, like, you traitor, you blah, blah, blah.
And by the way, this is a new answer for him. Like,
this is a very recent, the last 2-month answer. I got the Stella shot. And I mean, honestly, until I got the Stella shot a couple months ago, I would have gone back. I would have regurgitated what I think I should say. I don't want to go back. I'm not afraid. Am I afraid? Yeah, I'm afraid to go back too, but is it my job? No. Yeah. Would I go younger and go back? And because it brought me here. Sure. But I didn't like the job. I loved the job so much. It became my life and ruined everything else. And I see it happening every day with people that I don't know that are in the unit that are spouses are screaming for help. They're
Yeah.
screaming for help.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's getting worse. Been at war for over 20 years now with these guys
Yeah.
going every day to not just Afghanistan or Iraq,
Right.
places you don't even know, places you don't even know about, they're dying in.
Right.
Unless you catch a video of them on a bank camera somewhere snatching somebody in some foreign country. Look at
Yeah.
this. Like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah.
They're doing things and they come home and they don't know how to act.
So
They
Tom,
don't.
why did you do it, man?
I hate bullies.
That's right.
I hate bullies, and then you become one, right? You have to become who you hate to kill it, So yeah, I hated bullies. I grew up underneath bullies, and I don't like people doing things to others that aren't kind. Do I think America's the good guys? Sure, I was born here, but yeah, all governments do things to get things done, right? So it's just, yeah, I don't like bullies. So
but you did it also.
It was an opportunity to remove world leader bullies.
Dude, I'm down with that, bro. I will sign up for that anytime. But the other stuff, I'm like, it's a big price to pay, man. You can't make up the time lost with your children. You can't make up for the words that come out of your mouth in anger to someone else. You can't take that stuff back, but you did it because you love your country.
Yeah. And I wish I would have done it while somebody like me or her, not me, but her, was teaching me the tools to stay, this side and that side of the dark side, just bouncing around when I need it. But I stayed right on it. I thought I'm going to live right here. I didn't think it. I just did it. Yeah. But man, I wish I had somebody along the way that would have kept me healthier along the way. I'd have been better. I could have stayed there longer and done more good things versus going off the rails and tanking and taking people with me. You can do both.
I
right?
couldn't have handled him in the unit though.
We wouldn't have made it. Nobody made it with
no
me.
way.
I mean, honestly, me or the unit. I'm
meet
like,
him after.
It's me or your work. And I was like, later. I really did a lot of work here, man. America needs me. Whatever excuse I told myself.
Yeah, I get it, man. Look, when I was a younger man, I'd say I want to go out if I'm going to go out, I want to go out on a pile of brass, man. Yeah. If I'm going to go out on a damn drug deal, I'm going to take a couple of dudes with me, and scenarios like that unfolded in front of me on these ops, and so I was like, later on, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? I want to grow old, man. I want to see my grandkids, man. I want to see their kids grow up, and so now your reason behind wanting to be alive is different. And I think a lot of our warriors have to find that reason why they're alive now. They have to work on their legacy. And sometimes they feel, look, when I left law enforcement, I felt like I went from being this cool samurai, right, to the samurai who's now a gardener out there just sowing and planting, you know what I mean? And so it's tough.
True.
It's tough. And I think, and I had to find a different path, I had to find other reasons why, and
you're still that person. You just change your vision of what you wanted to do now, what's important now. I mean, you're still that person, right? You just, what's your focus now? You're like, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss that. And I go, what are you going to miss, man? The crappy hours, shitty pay, the bad food. You miss the tribe. You miss belonging. So create something else, right? We all have that ability. And guys like you, when they do it, they call back happy, alive again. They're belonging.
Purpose. Yeah, they found purpose. They found purpose, and that is the part I think, Jen, is if we can help our warriors come back and still connect with a purpose through your guys' help, through your guys' foundation. I think that's commendable, and I think we can help out a lot of guys. It breaks my heart, man, when I hear soldiers committing suicide. Look, on so many levels, it hurts us. It hurts us because there's a lack of next generation of warriors, man. We are Spartans. We are the ones who get called to take out the bad guy. That's it. We're the ones who do it. And we have to make more of them. But at the same time, we also we owe it, our country owes it, to get those guys right, to get those girls right. And sometimes, and what I found was I found work on television and I found entrepreneurship to get me right and give me purpose. So I think you guys with your foundation is giving not only Tom purpose, is giving you, Jen, purpose, because you had your own issues you had to overcome as well. And then here comes Tom into the picture and just messes it all up, right? And so you had to overcome that, and so, but you guys have found purpose, and I thank you guys for your foundation. I thank you guys because look, post-traumatic stress is a thief, right? Yeah. It's a thief. And eventually, if you allow it, it will rule you. And I think at a certain point, Tom, it kicked your ass, man.
It owned me. It was owning me. I mean, it was my life. And it's sad I see some of my friends who it becomes your identity. That's your new identity.
Yes.
Like your new identity. I've got friends that drink so much, and I try to just get them to slow it down. You don't have to stop, whatever it is, I hear the excuses. Well, my dad's this, I'm Irish, I got to do it's the way it is, right. And I'm like, oh, well, it's the easy answer, isn't it? It's hard to put in work and make a change. It's hard. So it becomes the easy life of that's just what I am. So I'll just stay here,
Yeah. Tom, was that the only time you ever put that Glock in your hand and thought about suicide?
No. 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 I mean, and there's been other just suicidal ideation. We recently found out 100% of people, most places I used to work, have suicidal ideation daily. I would have 100 things a day. I'd think about driving my car into that or just doing something. Just, you know what? That's it. Decisions that were hard to handle. It was easier for me. I just wish I was dead now. It was just one of those things. When the gun was in my hand, I felt like a burden. I was in the way, right? I had done my time. I came here and did what I was supposed to do. Time to move on, make room for other bodies. But other suicidal ideations were just screw it. I'm screwing this up, or it's too hard to deal with. So it was happening all the time. I had to break it because, your thoughts become your words, become your actions if you're not careful. So you got to be careful what you manifest.
For me, man, the day my gun spoke to me, I was like, I gotta do something, man.
Something's up.
And when I told the person helping me, this guy says, well, was it in your voice or someone else's voice? I'm like, what do you think? I'm crazy or something? It was my voice, right? But man, to make light of it, when that happened, I just went up, I took it apart, and I didn't touch it for I think 2 years. It just sat there, disassembled. And you're absolutely right, man. It's this ugly monkey that sits on your back, and it doesn't go away. And it creeps up on you. It goes like this and says, dude, just do it. Dude, just do it. F it. Just do it. F it. Forget about it. And so what I started doing is I kept pictures in front of me to remind me of why the hell I have to live, man. And so I'm sorry you went through that, man. I really am.
Same for you, yeah.
Yeah, it's anybody that goes through that, man, it's scary. It comes on quick, and when I look back on it, I get nervous sometimes. Like, wow, that came on like someone else, and it comes on quick. And you asked a question like, what do you tell people who are like talking about the job and this is who I am and I got to stay sharp?
Yeah,
you're sharp enough. I tell them you're sharp enough, bro. In the same amount of time since the war started till 2019, we've had 7,140 combat-related deaths. In the same amount of time, we've had 114,000 suicides.
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
So the problem is not that we're not badass. The problem is that we can't deal with our own emotions and feelings. So we don't know where to turn to. We're afraid to ask for help because we think it's weakness. So we're our own problems. The enemy's not touching us. The enemy can't touch us.
Right.
It's ourselves.
Right. And I think there's something, this thing, there's this, when you carry a gun for so many years, when you carry a weapon for so many years, and you have that monkey on your back that's telling you to go do it, it's just so easy. It's just so easy. Being medicated for a while because of injuries, drinking a 12-pack of Miller Lite every other day. You know what I mean?
12.
Just 12. I'm such a wuss. I'm not even as cool, man. It can wear someone down, man. And so I think if we're able to help men and women find purpose, a new identity,
Yes.
I think we can make a difference, man. You know, a couple of things. Jen, in your book, you talk about the Grinch who stole Christmas. Why do I relate to that? Why is it, Jen? Please help me. Why is it that on happy days that are supposed to be happy days, Christmas, New, all that,
Birthdays, graduations.
yes, help me, Jen, help me out. It's a cry for help.
Any special occasion, you know, it was my question for so long too.
Yes.
Like I literally could not understand why holidays became really just the most toxic experience of the week, the month, whatever. And I, you know, for a long time, I thought maybe he had survivor's guilt. And I'm like, I think this is just because you're here and your friends aren't. And I do think that that is always coming to mind for him. And it shows up in a different way than I thought. You know, again, I can empathize to a degree with law enforcement and military, but I've never walked in your shoes. So for a spouses, it's a lot of guessing games. Like, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? And talking to hundreds, if not thousands of law enforcement and military, they all have the same story. It was all, I ruin every anniversary. I don't know why. I tell myself the night before, like, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. And then sure enough, you know, the toast is burnt. And I'm like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done with Christmas. And the spouse is like, it's burnt toast. It's okay. Yeah. And then and the dog is doing this and I'm gone. I'm done. And honestly, I always joke that Christmas is our busiest day of the year, but it really is. Because I think that one time Tom said this and honest to God, I was like, that's it. He said, I'm jealous of you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're so pure and happy that it's effortless for you. You get up on Christmas and you're like the freaking Christmas elf and you've got music going.
That's
and
every
you're like,
day though.
Hey,
that's every day.
It's Christmas. And he's like, the happiness for him, because he couldn't emote. He couldn't get there, even though he wanted to really bad.
Well,
then he
Tom,
started
let me ask you a
feeling shame
question.
and embarrassment.
Let me ask Tom a question right there. Why couldn't you get there? Why couldn't you just be happy?
I don't know. I've been fighting and trying and you know,
That's my answer.
Everybody, there's just void of emotions, void of emotions of why aren't you, you know, my book was coming out. She's like, why aren't you happy? And I'm like, I'm happy. Book's coming out and whatever. I mean, I don't know what would ever make me, I don't know what would make me jump up and down and get excited. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get that way. It's just, you know what it is when it's not scheduled, he can get that way. If it's scheduled like an anniversary, a holiday where he's supposed to be something, he's almost told what to do. These guys do not like to be told what to do. I swear to God. I'm like, for people who have to follow rules so much, you really hate when other people enforce rules.
Jen, did you talk to my wife before coming out? Are you talking are you talking to me right? Are you talking to me right now, Jen? Are you talking to me? Tom, what is the cost of winning? What has been the cost? Because you won a lot. You survived. What has been the cost?
Happiness, stability. For me, the cost of winning for me was it cost happiness on one side. It cost stability. And it cost man, honestly, it costs my emotions, you know?
What would you tell your 20-year-old self? What advice would you give?
You know, yourself? Fight for normalcy along the way. Maintain that foot on the ground. I mean, I wasn't the cocky, I'm a God kind of guy, but you get there. I mean, you get there. Everybody that says, I'm not going to be that operator guy. I mean, I wasn't that operator guy, but I was that operator guy. You know, I was.
You have to.
You know, when you're in charge and you control everything that happens, it becomes part of you. And you got to, I mean, starting a business with Jen, it's like, hey, we need to do this and this and this. I'm looking at her going, all right, who's going to do that?
Like, I'm not your secretary.
How many secretaries used to have? Like, I don't know, 3 or 4. I'm shoot, I don't know how to do all this.
Oh my God.
It's really more work.
Here's the phone.
Yes. Wow. Sure. Tom, what drives you now?
Changing changing other people's perspective on how horrible they have it, I guess. You know, I want people to find that your life's not as bad as you're telling yourself. I know, right? That means your day's not as bad as it is. That means your relationship's not as bad as it is. That means you can forgive yourself and not be so hard on yourself. I want guys to understand, guys and gals to understand that you can forgive yourself, right? It's okay. We're all talking about it. We all need a little help from somebody that knows more than us. We all don't know everything, or my God, it'd be boring. So why not reach out? Why not improve, right? Self-help, whatever it is, you should always be improving or you're dying, you know?
Jen, what are some of your proudest moments now that you've, you've met Tom, and aside from meeting Tom, of course, but what are some of your proudest moments?
I didn't even know what Delta Force was when I met him.
Oh, okay, that's pretty awesome.
I said, what is that, like a SEAL?
Like a SEAL, like a Navy SEAL.
Didn't know. So after I figured that
SEAls
out,
bounce balls on their nose like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you visit at the zoo sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Beyond meeting Tom,
yeah,
I would say the last few years, the relief that I have seen in people's faces when they realize it's not their fault, it's biological, and they can get to the other side of the injury, that has been so profound. I've seen toughest pipeheaders just go from totally shut off and that just crack and relax. And we saw a guy at a retreat this last weekend who came in so like disgruntled and just hard. And then we've got pictures of him at the end. You could see a physical change from Thursday to Sunday. That is what I live for. I mean,
that's
my
incredible.
kids, my family.
I called him the angry garden gnome to his face. I go, when you showed up, you look like that Travelocity gnome. Just, and then 2 days later, he was like, I go, did you shave your beard, man? I go, physically, the wall came down.
Yeah.
The weight was gone and his relationship was there again. Both of them.
Man.
So wonderful.
Are there any decisions that you wish you would have never made, Tom?
You got all night.
Just give me one or two.
How long you got?
Man, you know,
we can move on to the next one if you prefer.
I turned away overseas a couple of times from what I should have done to my guys that potentially almost caused harm during some hits, because I thought I was letting them do their thing, and I should have done the leadership thing.
Okay.
And that cost me some heartache later. And you know, it's just as important to always do the right thing. Okay. Because it always comes back on you. And at times when you think you're doing the right thing to help out your guys or your gals or whatever it is that you're trying to make their life a little better, but it's not the right thing really. That snowballs. And I wish I hadn't have done the friend thing. I should have stayed the leader.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to lead.
Yeah.
You just have to lead. What are you chasing now, Tom? What are you chasing now? I chase knowledge now. I kind of want to, I want to learn more about how to help other people more. She's such her memory is so much better than mine since my brain's all scrambled. But
You've been blown
when I watch her talk to people, it's just amazing. I'm like, I'm going to read what she just read, and like you, I'm underlining the entire book. She's like, save some space. I'm like, it's all so amazing. And just learning how to talk to guys like me and how I used to be, and a better way to speak to guys like me all shut down, because to watch that change and to watch a relationship grow, I chase the knowledge that can make that happen.
And what's chasing you?
I'll chase you.
Hopefully her again. My past chases, man, God, my past chases me. I'm always in conflict with who I want to become and who I was.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle. And when I go back to who I was and I see her look on her face, I hate it. I hate myself again immediately. And it just gives me more power to not go back, not live in the rearview mirror and live who I was. I didn't peak back then in Delta. You know what? I'm going to peak now, saving lives. Got
it. Some people chase immortality and they live forever, right? And as a legend. And other people will live forever because immortality caught them first, right? And sometimes for a warrior, it's like, dude, I want to live forever, man, or I want to be a legend. You know what I'm saying? And you're a legend amongst tier 1 operators, man. You know, and so I think you have been whatever it is that you've chased. I think you caught it, man. And whatever's chasing you, I think you've got some backup right there is going to help you deal with that, you know, to kind of fend it off, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that what you guys are doing is incredible. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for being here with me today, because to me, you know, it's important for us to do something about these warrior suicides, man. It's important. And you know, obviously what you wrote in here is profound. And then of course, what your wife wrote in her book is also very profound as well, An Arsenal of Hope. You know, and I think people should definitely read these, you know, and I appreciate you guys signing them for me as well. Thank you so very much. You know, again, your website again is allsecurefoundation.org, correct?
You got it. Thank you.
If you could, what piece of advice would you give a guy right now who's just kind of on the edge and she's just like, you know what? I don't care what that Lou Pimber guy has to say. Tom Satterly is cool, but what advice do you give him, man? Like, what, you know, what do you tell someone like that?
I would tell him you're worth it. You're worth it, because I know how I felt. I felt like worthless. I lost hope, and I felt worthless. And most of all, I felt in the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so I tell people, if I had one word, you're worth it. You know, your worth and your value is still there. It didn't go away.
Got it.
It's just you think differently right now.
Got it. Right on, man. Well, look, I appreciate you guys' time. I want to spread the word along with you guys, what you guys are doing. And thank you so much for being here with me today. And I hope you guys have a great evening. And thanks again, guys. If you guys enjoyed what you guys saw today and took some value from listening to Tom Satterly, make sure you spread the word. I'll post the website up here a few times so people can find you guys. And you're absolutely right. We are worth it. And tomorrow will come. Tomorrow will come.
Yes.
When I think of guys that I've known that have taken their life in law enforcement, and I say, I wish they just would have seen tomorrow, you know. So thank you guys for being here, guys. I appreciate you. Tom Satterly, Jen Satterly, authors. You're pretty much counselors now. You're experts in the field of post-traumatic stress. You've spoken in front of Congress. You've done some pretty cool stuff. And thank you so much for being here. Again, this is Lou Pimber. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Lou.
Hey, this is Lou Pimber here. You guys just heard from Tom Satterly. Look, it can't get any better than that. Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down, umpteen number of stories that we could have talked about. But what you heard today was a tier 1 operator, retired over 20 plus years of service, who came to the conclusion at some point in his career that he needed to address certain issues. And so if you find yourself or know someone who's in that situation, who need to address issues, unresolved problems, unresolved matters, reach out to allsecurefoundation.org, allsecurefoundation.org. Reach out to Tom, reach out to Jen. Highly recommend this book right here, Arsenal of Hope, and of course, Tom's book, All Secure. There's also other options out there available you can reach out to. There's also 855 Rally for You, 855 Rally, RALLY, the number 4, the letter U. Reach out to them. It's a hotline. Look, it is up to us as Americans to make sure that our war fighters coming home stay home. We need more war fighters. America needs it. America is relying on us to support them once they come back fighting the wars. Again, this is Lou Pimber. If you like today's show, subscribe, smash that like button, pass it on, and share it. Thank you guys so much. Again, this is Lou Pimber. It's been a pleasure and honor being with you guys today.